The planet's twin suns had already set behind the broken mountains. Shadows crawled across the empty refugee camp, now nothing more than tents and ash. Silence filled the place, except for the sound of a lone man walking carefully over cracked ground. His name was John Keller, an off-duty human engineer from Earth, part of a relief team that never arrived. The war had ended 2 months ago. At least, that's what the report said. But here, in the outer rim world of Zar 6, it still felt like a battlefield. He was searching for survivors. Again. And this time, he found one. A soft sound stopped him. Not loud, not a cry, just breathing, weak and short. He turned slowly, flashlight held high. His beam caught the edge of a broken food stall half covered in dirt and cloth. That's when he saw her, a small alien girl, thin, shivering, covered in dust. Big yellow eyes blinking at him from behind the cloth. Her skin was pale blue, hair wild and messy like straw soaked in ash. She didn't look older than 7. She didn't run. She didn't scream. She stepped out from behind the ruined stall. Barefoot on the cold ground. John stayed still, unsure if she would collapse. But she stood firm. Then she pointed at him. Her small hand shook as she whispered in a cracked voice, "You'll be my dad now." John didn't move. His heart skipped. What did she just say? She took another step. Her knees wobbled, but she didn't fall. Her face was dirty, lips dry and cracked. "I waited," she said, "but no one came. They told me my real dad was dead, so now you'll be him." John slowly crouched down, lowering his flashlight. "Hey, I'm not your—" "You are now," she interrupted. He stared into her eyes. Not afraid, not sad, just empty. Like she had seen too much already. Too much for a child. Too much for anyone. He took off his jacket and held it open. "Come here." She didn't hesitate. She walked right into it, pressing her face into his chest as if she'd known him forever. She didn't cry. She just breathed, deep and slow. Like she was safe for the first time. John wrapped the jacket around her shoulders and looked up at the dark sky. What the hell was happening? He carried her back to his tent, carefully avoiding the sharp debris. She was light, too light. Like she hadn't eaten in days. Inside the tent, he gave her water and a protein bar. She didn't say thank you. She just ate it slowly, watching him the entire time like she was waiting for him to disappear. After a while, she spoke again. "I have a name. Do you want to know it?" He nodded. "Sure." She looked at the floor. "But I forgot it." John blinked. "You forgot your own name?" She nodded once. Too many loud things, too much running. It got lost. He sat down beside her, unsure what to say. He had worked on dozens of planets, rebuilt cities, helped refugees. But this was different. This was a little girl who had claimed him as her father before he even knew her name. "Do you want to pick a new one?" he asked gently. She looked up at him. "You choose." John thought for a second. "How about Lila?" The girl smiled. "Just a little." "Okay," she said. "I'm Layla now." That night, John barely slept. He kept watching the entrance of the tent, one hand near his sidearm. He didn't know if someone would come looking for her, soldiers, slavers, or worse. But none came, only silence. And in the middle of the night, she rolled over and whispered in her sleep, "Don't leave me." "Dad!" John stared at her small frame, curled under his blanket. He wasn't a father. Never wanted to be one. But in that moment, he made a choice. He reached over and gently tucked the blanket around her shoulders. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. "I got you, Lila." Outside, the wind howled through the ruins. But inside that little tent, something new was born, something like a family asterisk. The morning came slow. John opened his eyes to a soft weight against his chest. It was Lila, still asleep, her small hand gripping the collar of his shirt like she feared he'd vanish if she let go. He didn't move. Didn't want to, but something felt off. Then he heard it. A soft crunch outside the tent. Not the wind. Not an animal. Footsteps. His body tensed. Quietly, he reached over, grabbed the small pistol from under his coat, and pointed it low near the tent flap. Another step. And then a shadow. He pulled the zipper open fast. A figure fell forward into the tent. While awoke with a jolt. Mama. John froze. The woman before him collapsed hard, bleeding from her shoulder, breathing fast, eyes unfocused. Her skin same pale blue. Her eyes same golden fire. But her face was older, softer. Broken. Lila scrambled to her knees and hugged her. I waited, Mama. I waited. The woman coughed weak. She tried to speak, but only air came out. John dropped the pistol and grabbed his med kit. He pulled her into the corner, unzipped her suit, and cleaned the wound. A sharp cut, fresh, laser burn. Someone shot her recently. Someone was close. Who did this? He asked quietly. She didn't answer. She just looked at him, stared into him. No fear, no panic, just calm. Almost too calm, like she already knew who he was. And then she spoke. You're the one. Leela chose. He blinked. What? She doesn't choose people, the woman said, coughing. She waits. Watches. You're the first one she ever picked. John didn't know what to say. You're not just anything. She cut him off, though her voice was tired. She called you Dad. That means something. Leela curled up next to her. Mama, he gave me a name. He gave me food. The woman closed her eyes. A tear slipped out. Then he's already done more than your real father ever did. John stayed quiet. He didn't ask, but part of him wanted to. Where was the real father? What happened to him? Why were they alone? Few hours later, the woman sat up, pain etched across her face. She was strong, clearly used to running, surviving, hiding. John made tea with the last of his ration cubes and handed her a metal cup. She sipped once, then looked at him over the pudding. John over the rim. You don't ask many questions. I figured you'd talk when you're ready. I'm never ready, she replied. But we don't have time. He raised an eyebrow. Time for what? She hesitated. You need to leave this place. Today, I'm not going anywhere without answers. She glanced at Lila, who was asleep again, curled in a blanket, and then looked back at him. My name is Remay. I used to serve the Zoltran Empire. But when I gave birth to a half-breed, they stripped my title and marked us for death. John stared. Half-breed? Her eyes locked with his. She's part human. You're not the first Terran they captured. His mouth went dry. You're saying her father was human? Yes, a soldier, a good one. Dead now. She looked down. And now they want her gone. She's a threat to their bloodlines, a shame to their name. John ran a hand through his hair. So you've been hiding ever since? Yes, we stayed ahead of them for years. But last night, they caught up. John looked outside the tent flap. The wind blew sand across the ruined field. He wasn't just dealing with a scared girl anymore. He was in the middle of something political, dangerous, deadly. So why me? He asked softly. Why did she choose me? Remay didn't answer right away. She looked at Lila sleeping, then whispered. She sees people for who they really are. Not what they say, not what they wear, just what they are. And what am I? A man who didn't walk away. That hit harder than it should have. John exhaled. He looked down at the child, then at her mother. Then outside, somewhere out there. Someone was hunting them. Someone who wouldn't stop. I'll protect her, John said finally. Remay raised her eyes. And me? There was silence. Then he nodded. You too. Remay looked away, hiding a small smile. You just became a husband to a woman you don't even know, John shrugged. Not the weirdest thing that's happened this week. Outside, a drone hovered silently above the broken trees. A red light blinked beneath it. Tracking signal acquired. Target locked. John didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. Ray lay beside her daughter, pretending to rest, but he knew better. She kept one hand near the small blade hidden under her clothes. And outside, the night was too quiet. No animals. No wind. Just stillness. Something was coming. He felt it in his bones. Before the sun could rise, John slipped out of the tent and climbed a broken structure nearby. It used to be a watchtower, now just steel bones and rusted bolts. From the top, he scanned the area with his scope, and there it was, a single flash, metal glinting in the distance. Too steady to be a reflection. Too perfect to be natural. A drone. He cursed it under his breath and slid back down. Inside the tent, May was already awake, eyes sharp. They found us, didn't they? She asked. He nodded. One drone. Might be more. She stood. Then we move. Now. John grabbed his pack. Where? Ray looked down at Lila, still half asleep. Then she looked at John with a strange expression, like she was about to tell him something he wouldn't believe. There's a place, she said. A shelter, deep in the broken city, underground, sealed off from satellites. How do you know it exists? Because I built it. They moved fast. Lila rode on John's back, arms wrapped around his neck. Ray walked beside him, silent but alert. She moved like someone trained. Someone dangerous. It wasn't until they reached the outskirts of the old city that he finally asked, "You said you built the shelter. How?" Ray didn't look at him. "I was part of the Zoltran Black Cell. We created hidden bases across border planets in case of rebellion. I know where most of them are." John blinked. "You were a military architect?" She nodded. "I designed walls meant to keep people out. Now I use them to hide my daughter." He shook his head in disbelief. "You're full of surprises." She gave him a sharp look. "You haven't seen the biggest one yet." The broken city was silent, empty towers leaning like dying trees, metal hanging from windows like torn skin. They found the entrance behind an old medical center. Ray pushed aside rubble, revealing a flat steel panel. She placed her hand on a small scanner hidden under the dust. A red light blinked, then turned green. With a hiss, a hidden door opened, revealing a narrow stairway going deep underground. Lila's eyes widened. "It's like magic." "No," Ramey said. "It's preparation." Inside, the shelter was cold but safe, metal walls, backup lights, air filters humming quietly. John helped Lila settle onto a small cot. Then he turned to Ramey. "All right. No more secrets." She sighed and sat down across from him. "I was more than a designer," she said. "I was a weapon." John frowned. "What do you mean?" "I was trained to break into minds, interrogate, manipulate, destroy from the inside." He stared. "You're a spy?" "Was," she corrected, "until I met him." "Him?" "Leela's father," she said softly. "He was captured in a border raid. A human, strong, stupid, brave. They asked me to study him." John leaned in. "Did you?" She nodded. "I did. And then I fell for him." She looked away. "He showed me what kindness was, what peace felt like. And when I found out I was pregnant, I ran. I knew they would never allow her to live." John stayed quiet. This wasn't just a refugee woman. This was a former enemy, a killer, and now, a mother. "You hate me now?" she asked suddenly, voice sharp. "No," John said. "But I'm trying really hard to understand you." She met his eyes. "Then understand this," she said. "They will never stop. Not until Leela is dead, or I am." John's jaw tightened. "What if they get neither?" Suddenly, alarms flashed. Red dot motion sensors. Ray rushed to the panel. "They found the entrance. They're here." John grabbed his weapon. Can we hold them off? No, she said. But there's an escape tunnel. Only one person can fit. He looked at her. You mean you take Leela, she said. I'll stay behind. I'll hold them. No, John said firmly. You don't get to choose. She snapped Dot, and then behind them, Lila's small voice cut through the panic. Please, don't fight. I want both my parents. Both turned to look at her. Dot, tears ran down her cheeks. I picked you both. Silence filled the room, and just like that, John understood. She wasn't just some alien woman. She was family now, and he wasn't going to lose her. Not now. Not ever. Asterisk. The steel door shook. A deep boom echoed through the underground shelter. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. John tightened his grip on his rifle. They're using charges. Ray ran her fingers across the wall, pressing hidden switches. This door can take a blast, but only once. Boom. Another. Tremor. Closer this time. John glanced at Lila. She was curled in a corner, arms hugging her knees, trying not to cry. But her wide, golden eyes were glued to her mother and the man she called Dad. We need a plan, he said. No time. Ramay replied. They'll break through any minute. John turned to her. Then we fight, together. But Ray shook her head slowly. You're not trained for them. John stepped closer, almost angry. I've fought before. Don't treat me like I'm weak. She stared at him for a long second, then finally gave a small nod. All right, human, let's give them hell. Behind the door, metal boots thudded against the floor. Then voices speaking in Zoltran tongue. John didn't understand the words, but the tone? Cold, sharp, professional. Commandos, Armée. Whispered, Black Fire Unit. You know them? I trained some of them, she replied bitterly, before I ran. Suddenly, the wall behind Leela flickered. Ramay pressed a hidden switch, and a narrow shaft opened up, slanting upward. Lila, she said, kneeling. You must go now. Lila shook her head. No, I won't leave. Sweetheart, Ramay's voice cracked. You have to survive. Lila looked at John. You're coming too, right? He hesitated. Just 1 second. But it was enough for the girl to see the truth in his face. No, she whispered. I'll hold them, he said softly. Just for a while. You promised, she cried. You said I wasn't alone. John knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. You're not. I'll find you again. I swear it. Ramay grabbed her daughter, pulled her tight into a hug, and whispered something in her ear. Then she kissed her forehead, pushed her toward the tunnel, and pressed the switch. The shaft slid shut behind her. Gone. Safe. Boom. The door bent inward. Sparks flew from the lock. John took cover behind a support beam. Ray crouched low, knife in one hand, blaster in the other. Then silence. For 1 second, no sound at all. And then they breached. 3 armored soldiers stormed in, moving fast. No warning, no mercy. John fired first, hitting one center. Mass armor cracked, but not enough. Ray leapt like a shadow, her blade slicing between plates. One soldier dropped, the others turned, opened fire. John ducked. A shot grazed his arm, burned like fire. He growled and fired again, this time at the lights. Darkness. Total. Black. Now it was their turn to be afraid. Ray moved like wind in shadow. In the dark, she was death itself. John kept low, firing only when needed. Grunts, screams, THUDs. Then stillness, and the light came back. 3 bodies lay still. Blood red and blue pooled across the floor. John was breathing hard, hands shaking. Ramay limped. One of her legs was hit. That was just a scout team. John turned to her. Then we're dead if we stay. Not yet, she said, smiling faintly through the pain. She pulled open a storage panel and tossed him a disc. What's this? Data key. Coordinates to a rebel safe zone, far from here. Lila will reach it if she follows the tunnel. He stared at the small glowing disk. And us? She looked at the fallen enemies. We won't make it. John didn't like that answer, but he didn't argue, because somewhere inside, he knew she might be right. Footsteps echoed above. More enemies. They had minutes. Maybe less. John walked to the side panel and opened another shaft. Go, he said. Take the side exit. Meet Lila, Remay frowned. That tunnel collapses. Behind you after 5 minutes. You won't get out. I'm not planning to, John said. She stepped forward, angry. You think I'll leave you to die? You have to. She needs you more than me. She needs both of us. John looked at her with tired, honest eyes. One of us has to make sure she sees the stars again. Silence. Then she grabbed his face and kissed him, quick, hard, full of fire. If you die, I'll find you and kill you again. He smirked. Deal. She ran. The shaft closed behind her. John turned, picked up a dropped rifle, and faced the stairs. He heard them coming. Heavy, cold, merciless. He grinned and waited. Renee didn't look back. She couldn't. Her legs ached. Her side burned, and every breath felt like it might be her last, but she ran. Through the dark tunnel, through old sewage pipes, through silence and dust, and all she could hear in her mind was the last thing John had said. Make sure she sees the stars again. It felt like hours before the tunnel ended. Heavy hatch hissed open into open sky, and there, blinking in the early morning light, was Lila. Her knees were pulled to her chest, her cheeks wet from crying, but the moment she saw her mother, she ran and hugged her like she'd never let go. You're here, Layla whispered. Ray dropped to her knees and held her tight. Of course I am. Where's Dad? Remay froze. Then she pulled the data key from her pocket. He stayed behind. So we could have this. Lila stared at it. What is it? Hope, Remay said. And a map. They didn't wait long. She knew soldiers would track the tunnel. So they moved quiet, hidden, through crumbled ruins, across silent roads, avoiding cameras, avoiding life. 2 days passed like that. Then came the village, a quiet place, hidden under a collapsed spaceport. Survivors lived here, mostly rebels, exiles, forgotten people. And among them, a man. John. Alive. Saw him first. She dropped her food tray and ran across the open square. Dad! He turned, stunned. Then smiled. Just once, she crashed into him like a bullet, almost knocking him over. You said you'd find us again, she cried. I did, he said, hugging her tight. And I will. Every time. Remay watched from the distance, breath caught in her throat. She had prepared herself for grief. Instead, she got this. Life. Love. A second chance. Later, inside a small room built from ship scraps, John told them how he survived. I sealed the door, led the rest of the squad away, then used the vent system to sneak out the old maintenance shaft. You planned that? Renee asked, half impressed, half annoyed. No, John said. I panicked and got lucky. She shook her head and gave him a smile anyway. Then came silence. Not awkward. Just quiet. Until Lila broke it. Are you and Mom married now? John coughed on his tea. Remay raised an eyebrow. Married? Yeah, Lila said seriously. You saved her. You love her. She loves you. John blinked. That's not how marriage works. Ray leaned back with a smirk. Isn't it? He looked between them, then laughed softly. You two are impossible. That night, they sat under the stars. Lila slept in a small cot nearby. John sat beside Remay on the ledge of a broken tower, watching the night sky. I never wanted a family, he said quietly. I never believed I'd have one. She replied. They didn't look at each other. Not yet. But the words hung there. Heavy. Real. You didn't have to come back. Remay said. You didn't have to run toward gunfire, John replied. I wasn't going to lose you, she said softly. He finally turned his head, and there she was bathed in starlight. Wind brushing her pale hair aside. No longer a soldier. No longer just a mother. Something more. And for the first time, she reached out and touched his hand. Not fast. Not shy. Just honest. I called you husband in front of Lila, she whispered. And it didn't feel wrong. John closed his eyes and smiled. That makes two of us. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. Because in the silence of the stars, something stronger formed. A promise. Meanwhile, far above the planet, aboard a black cruiser, a tall figure stood in the shadows. Zoltran General Vorth. He stared at a HOLO-map. The family's location blinked faintly. Send the signal, he ordered. They survived again? Yes. The general growled. But not for long. He turned his eyes toward the stars. Let the hunt begin. Asterisk, the first sign came with the silence. No birds, no wind. No distant chatter from the village. Just cold, unnatural silence. John sat sharpening a blade outside their small shelter, the one Lila had decorated with flowers and scrap art. Remay was inside boiling water. Lila was gone for only 5 minutes, sent to fetch clean cloth from the medic's tent. Just 2 rows away. 5 minutes. But when John stood to stretch and glanced toward the tent, she wasn't there. He dropped the blade and ran. Lila. Number. Answer. He burst into the medic's tent. Empty. He called again, louder this time. Villagers turned, confused. A few followed. No one had seen her leave. Then he spotted it. At the edge of the ruins. A single yellow ribbon fluttering on a broken beam. Lila's ribbon. John's chest tightened. His feet moved before his mind could. May caught up fast. Where is she? She barked. John didn't answer. He just pointed to the ribbon. Her face went pale. No. Not now, not again. They searched for hours. By nightfall, the village was sealed. But Lila was gone. And in her place, they found only one thing. A black insignia carved into the stone wall. Zoltran Elite. Back in the shelter, Ray sat on the ground, breathing hard. Shaking from rage. She was right here, she growled. I should have never relaxed. I knew they wouldn't stop. John paced like a caged animal. They must have been watching for days. Of course they were, she snapped. You think they forgot about her? About me? They've been waiting for us to breathe. John turned, his fists clenched. Then we get her back. May looked up. Her eyes burned with fire. And die trying? If that's what it takes. That night, a message arrived, projected. Through a stolen rebel drone, it flickered in the air before them. General Vorth appeared tall, armored, his voice sharp as broken glass. The abomination is in my care, unharmed for now. Bring the mother, alone, or the child will not live to see another sunrise. The message ended. Silence returned. Then May stood. Then I go. John grabbed her arm. No, she's my daughter. She's our daughter. May stared at him, eyes trembling. She's all I have left. No, John said softly. You have me. May didn't sleep. Neither did John. At sunrise, they stood near the old shuttle yard with a stolen hoverbike. The plan was suicidal. John knew it, and she knew it too. But there was no choice. She'd be guarded, John said. We go in together. May handed him a vial. Neurostun. 1 drop and you'll drop a Zoltran for 10 minutes. He took it without question. Then she placed a hand on his chest. If something happens to me. Don't, he said. I'm serious. If they take me too, and you only have time to save one of us. I already made my choice, John said. She stared. And saw the truth in his eyes. You're insane, she whispered. I know. She kissed him. Not for passion. But for strength. Then they rode. The Zoltran base was hidden in the mountains. An old listening station, repurposed for extraction and interrogation. They broke in through a ventilation shaft. The corridors were dark, silent. Too silent. John moved ahead while Ray checked side rooms. Then he heard it. A voice soft, familiar lil, she was in a holding cell, seated on the floor. Her hands were free, but her eyes were wide with fear. He burst in, shot the guard in one clean blast, and ran to her. "Dad?" He knelt and grabbed her face gently. "I got you, sweetheart. I'm here." She hugged him hard. "They hurt a robot. They said they'd hurt me next, not anymore." Then a siren. It was a trap. Doors slammed shut. Metal clanged behind him. May screamed from the hall. He turned and saw her surrounded by 5 Zoltran soldiers, pulled to her knees, beaten. "Go!" she shouted. "Take Leela and run." "No," Leela cried. "Don't leave her." John's heart slammed in his chest. He looked at both of them, his daughter, his wife, not by law, but by love. The guards raised their weapons. He only had one vial, only one way out. Only one could be saved if he failed. Time slowed. John looked into Ray's eyes. She gave the smallest nod. Then Leela sobbed, "Dad, please, don't let her go." John closed his eyes and made his choice. Smoke filled the corridor. Screams echoed in Zoltran. Tongues, sirens wailed. The compound was falling apart from the inside, and no one could stop it. Not after what John Keller did. 3 minutes ago he made a choice, but it wasn't the one the Zoltran expected. Instead of choosing between May and Lila, he chose both. He threw the neurostun into the air, not at the guards, but at the ceiling sprinkler system. A burst of gas exploded across the hallway, hitting everyone in range, including himself. He blacked out mid-charge. When his eyes opened, he was on the floor, coughing hard. Above him, May stood bruised but alive, holding a stolen rifle. "You idiot," she whispered. He blinked. "You're welcome." Layla crawled over from the corner and hugged them both. "You came back. You both came back." John pulled her in with one arm. "Of course we did." Then he looked at May. "We're not leaving again." She nodded. And together, they ran outside. The hoverbike was gone, stolen by Zoltran troops. So John did what humans always did in impossible situations. He improvised. They found a broken scout transport in the base hangar. No weapons. No nav system. Just barely enough power to lift off. May hotwired it. John piloted. Lyla held onto both of them in the back, eyes shut tight, whispering, "Please go fast. Please go fast. Please go fast." The ship blasted through the side hangar door and up into the clouds. But they weren't alone. 3 Zoltran fighters followed, locking missiles. May jumped into the co-pilot seat, flipping switches. "We don't have weapons." "We have attitude," John muttered, diving into a canyon. The chase was brutal. Sharp turns, near crashes. Sparks flew from every angle, but just when it seemed like they were done for, one of the fighters clipped a rock wall and exploded. The shockwave knocked the other 2 off balance. John pulled them into a cloud bank. Silence. Then they were gone. Hours later, they landed in a rebel-controlled zone. Tired, burned, bleeding, but alive. As they stepped off the ship, locals surrounded them, whispers spreading fast. "That's the human. The Zoltran fugitive. And the child. They're together? Impossible. They'll bring war." But others said, "No, they're hope. A real family." They faced the Empire and walked away. An old rebel commander came forward, gray beard, metal arm, heavy eyes. "You risked everything for them," he said to John. John nodded once. "They're mine, even though she's Zoltran." "She's May. And the girl?" "She's my daughter." The old man smiled slowly. "Then from this day forward, they'll call you what you are." He raised his voice so the crowd could hear. "Father of the Forbidden's family." John didn't care much for titles, but when May slid her fingers into his, and Lila hugged both of them from the side, he realized something. He wasn't just a survivor. He wasn't just a protector. He was something more. A father, a husband, and together, They weren't broken anymore. Later that night, under the stars, Lila looked up at them both. I thought families had to be perfect. Renee smiled gently. Ours is better. It's real. John added, and it's forever. The little girl closed her eyes and leaned into them. For the first time in her life, she slept without fear.